The Galactic Coalition had very specific protocols about humans. Rule 17, Subsection 4. Never leave a human unattended near juvenile predator species. Rule 18. Never assume a human's tolerance levels based on their small stature. Rule 19. If a human says they're just resting their eyes, evacuate the area immediately. Lena Farrow had broken all 3 rules before lunch. The diplomatic cruiser Harmonious Accord was 3 weeks into its mission through the Tarask sector when Lena decided she'd had enough. The endless meetings with species who couldn't comprehend why humans insisted on bringing emotional support animals into treaty negotiations, the 17 different atmospheric adjustments her quarters had undergone, and the way Ambassador Kelth kept referring to her coffee as voluntary poison ingestion had worn her down to her last nerve. So when she found the observation deck empty, truly, blessedly empty, she didn't hesitate. The floor-to-ceiling windows displayed the amber nebula they were passing through, casting everything in warm, drowsy light. Lena grabbed one of the thermal blankets from the emergency station, spread it on the floor near the viewing window, and lay down. Just 5 minutes. That's all she needed. She was asleep in 30 seconds. The cubs found her 8 minutes later. Riku was the first to notice the strange creature on the observation deck floor. At 4 months old, she was all oversized paws and needle-sharp teeth, her purple-black fur still carrying the silver spots of cubhood. Her species, the Varaki, were apex predators from a death world. 3 systems over each adult, stood 9 feet tall, and could rend steel with their claws. But Riku was still learning what constituted prey. The creature was small, barely larger than Riku herself. It was making soft, rhythmic sounds, breathing, though Riku didn't know that word yet. It smelled strange, not like the cold metal of the ship or the astringent chemicals the crew used for cleaning. It smelled warm, alive, interesting. Riku crept closer, her hunting instincts firing even though she'd been fed just an hour ago. She extended one paw, claws retracted, and so gently pressed it against the creature's leg. The creature didn't move. Emboldened, Riku placed her other paw on the creature's stomach. Still nothing. This was clearly an inferior predator. Possibly already dead. Riku had learned about dead things from her clutch mother. Dead things didn't move, didn't fight back, and made excellent practice for pouncing. She pounced. All 15 pounds of Varaki cub landed squarely on Lena's chest. Lena stirred, her hand automatically coming up to rest on the warm, furry weight. In her sleep-fogged mind, she registered cat and nothing more. Her fingers found the spot behind Riku's ear, and she scratched. Riku's entire worldview shattered. The dead thing that wasn't dead had found the spot, the exact spot that made her back leg kick involuntarily, and her purr-equivalent rumble through her chest. This was clearly a superior being who understood the sacred art of ear-scratching. Riku settled down, her small body vibrating with contentment. That's when Tivy arrived. Tivy was Riku's clutch brother, slightly smaller but infinitely more mischievous. He'd been exploring the ventilation system when he heard Riku's contented rumbling and came to investigate. What he found was his sister sprawled across a strange, soft creature that was apparently warm and comfortable. Tivy wanted in on this. He approached from Lena's other side, circling twice before deciding the optimal position was directly on her legs. He flopped down with all the grace of a sack of potatoes, his weight pinning her shins to the floor. Lena mumbled something in her sleep, tried to shift, and found she couldn't. Her hand, still on autopilot, reached out and found Tivy's head. More scratching ensued. Tivy's purr joined Riku's, creating a discordant but somehow soothing harmony. The 3rd cub arrived 10 minutes later, drawn by the sounds. Then the 4th. Then 3 more from the nursery wing, who'd somehow escaped their enclosure. By the time Lena started to wake up, there were 8 juvenile predators of various species piled on top of her, each one weighing between 12 and 30 pounds, each one convinced they'd found the perfect sleeping spot. Lena's eyes opened slowly. The amber light of the nebula filtered through the spaces between furry bodies. She tried to lift her head and managed about 2 inches before a particularly rotund cub, some kind of armored species with plates instead of fur, shifted and pinned her shoulder down more firmly. "Oh," Lena said quietly, her voice still rough with sleep. "Hello." Was. Riku, closest to her face, opened one eye and chirped. It was the same sound adult Viraki made before they disemboweled their prey. But in cub form it was oddly endearing. Lena, who had grown up on a farm world where the livestock could and would kill you if you showed fear, was not impressed by the attempted intimidation. "You're just babies, aren't you?" she said, managing to work one arm free. She used it to pet the nearest cub, which happened to be something that looked like a cross between a pangolin and a bear. It made a pleased huffing sound. She tried to sit up. The pile shifted but held. Tried again. One of the cubs, Tivy, yawned, showing rows of developing teeth that would one day tear through ship hulls, and settled back down more firmly on her legs. "Right," Lena said. "I'm stuck." She should probably call for help. Her communicator was in her pocket, probably crushed under at least 3 cubs. The diplomatic staff would be looking for her. Eventually, Ambassador Kelth would have 17 different alerts about the missing cubs by now, but the observation deck was warm. The cubs were warm. The nebula outside painted everything in shades of gold and amber. And honestly, this was the most relaxed Lena had felt in 3 weeks. 5 more minutes, she told the cubs, who didn't understand her words but understood her tone perfectly. The pile settled, a mass of predatory potential, rendered harmless by youth and the universal appeal of a warm napping spot. When the security team finally found her 20 minutes later, they stood in the doorway in shocked silence. Lena Farrow, human diplomat, was completely immobilized under a pile of 8 juvenile predators from 6 different species, any one of which would grow up to be a legitimate threat to galactic security. She was also smiling, one hand gently scratching behind Riku's ears, while the cub drooled contentedly on her shoulder. "Ma'am," the security chief said carefully, his translator struggling with the diplomatic phrasing, "this is highly irregular." "They were cold," Lena said, which was an obvious lie given the ship's regulated temperature. "They are predators, ma'am. They're babies. Their parents could." "Their parents," Lena interrupted, "are currently in the diplomatic meeting I was supposed to be in, which means these little ones were left unsupervised." "Who's the real predator here?" The security chief had no response to that. Humans had a way of turning logic inside out when they wanted to make a point. Eventually, with much careful maneuvering and the promise of fresh meat, the security team extracted Lena from her purring prison. The cubs protested, Riku most loudly. But they were herded back to the nursery with minimal fuss. Lena stood, stretched, and felt her spine pop in 3 places. She had cub fur all over her uniform, and what she suspected was drool on her shoulder. Her legs had gone numb from the weight, and she was pretty sure she'd have bruises tomorrow. She felt amazing. "Ma'am," the security chief said as she walked past him toward the exit, "please don't do that again." The cubs' parents were concerned. The ambassador was concerned. "Protocol states." "Protocol," Lena said cheerfully, "can file a complaint." Later, in the diplomatic log, there would be a new entry under human behavioral observations. Subject displays concerning lack of self-preservation instincts when exposed to juvenile predators. Recommend additional supervision. Also recommend not leaving juveniles unsupervised near humans, as the human will apparently adopt them regardless of danger. But for now, Lena headed back to her quarters with a smile on her face and Riku's scent still clinging to her uniform. She'd missed her meeting, violated 3 protocols, and probably caused an interspecies incident. Worth it.